Welcome to another episode of Chatting with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got Alan Oliver. How do you say your last name?
Olivier, like the actor Laurence Olivier.
Olivier.
Yeah,
Okay. So, I saw your movie, Most Wanted. It's called Most Wanted in the U.S.
yeah.
and I forgot what the name is in
Target
Canada.
number one for the rest of the world.
Yeah, it was pretty insane story, man.
Yeah, when you see the movie, I think pictures speak a lot for themselves. When you see the inside prison in Thailand, as well as what Victor Malarek, the reporter, did to get me out of there at the time that you work for the Globe and Mail, and it was pretty long story because altogether, and we had 3.5 hours of movies, and we had to cut over an hour 15 had to be cut because most distributor and theaters they don't want to have long movies unless it's Iron Man or the Avengers or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah.
Yes,
So
pretty.
I got a picture from the Thai prison. I'm gonna bring it up. And these are the conditions that you were living in when you were there.
Yeah, yeah. This is it. That's how I. This is how we spend 16, 17 hours a day. It was like this
Wow.
for 8.5 years, and the first 42 months I wore chains. I had near 10 kilos of irons around my ankles for
Yeah.
42 months on top of that. And everyone who gets into prison over there, if they got caught with over 100 grams of heroin, they have to wear chains. And usually it's for 3 months. And myself, I did not agree with all the prison rules, and also the fact that some people try to jumped on me a few times. I had to defend myself. It made it that I ended up wearing chains for much longer than I should have. But in the end, I could keep my chin up and still stand to whatever they put on me for all those years. But foremost, after my sentencing, when I ended up waiting for my appeal, and I was sent to the hole over there. It's 4 months. It's like 50, 55 degrees.
What do they feed you when you're in there? What do they feed you?
Over there was only rice and vegetable, and the prison food wasn't good enough for consumption. And
You
based
you could you could answer it. I could edit this out.
not for the food they serve over there, it's like red rice with scale around it. It feel like feeds that you will use just to feed the cattle. It looks like cattle feed. It's what it looks like, and it wasn't it wasn't a thing to eat that. So we managed to have food being taken in by guards, and we over the years we managed to open small shops inside the prison among foreigners to get at least some chickens and some pork, and vegetables were pretty easy to have over there, and also missionaries, Baptist missionaries from United States used to visit foreign prisoners on a weekly basis, once or twice a week. And
Oh, so you had that to look forward to when you
but
were in there.
myself, I didn't hang around much with the crowd of people who were asking things to all the preachers over there, to the Baptist missionaries, because it was conditional to make Bible studies and stuff like that. And myself, the day that they put chains on me, I understood that no, there's not a God in the universe that would allow people to be chained and shackled like I did. And
Yeah.
after I stopped believing in all that, I rather live with sense of spirituality and respect towards life. And every time I do a good action towards someone, if that person that makes her or him happy and make her smile, then it's fine with me. It's all I need to be happy. I'm not
Yeah.
looking for a redemption or anything. In my case, I've been through hell, and even the devil didn't want me over there and send me back. So,
Yeah.
and
So how
you,
then like when you were going to the boat in the beginning of the movie, right?
Yeah,
What was the whole reason that you were in Thailand in the first place?
it
And
all
why were you at the boat? Why
it,
did you go there?
it all started when I came back from Kathmandu, February '87, and I was highly hooked on brown sugar. I was doing grams a day. And then when I got back to Gibson, I had few grams that I'd taken back with me that I'd swallowed, and I was introduced to that Glenn Barry guy that
Hmm.
Jim Gaffigan plays in the movie,
Yep.
and that guy, without knowing him and without knowing it, happens to be an RCMP informer. I mean,
Yeah.
he was an informant. He was actually a paid civil agent, which is a level higher than the normal informant. That guy was paid for each target that he presented to the RCMP, and he
Wow.
described he described me to the RCMP as the guy who was running all the SCAG on the West Coast. And when they ended up checking my last name and my birthday, a whole pile of criminal record came out. 11 convictions for weapons and drugs and violence and
Because
stuff
it
like.
was for the other guy, Daniel.
Yeah, yeah, but
Yeah.
and at that point, did they asked Glenn Barry introduced me to two of his partner, who apparently had just gotten back from Colombia with a full container of cocaine in Vancouver. And Glenn Barry even had a picture, just like you say in the movie when the picture is taken by the pool with Jim Gaffigan.
Yeah.
But Glenn Barry, when he came back, he showed me a picture, and the guy that was next to him, he was telling me that guy was a drug lord in Colombia and so on, and just
Wow.
believed that they were in the big thing. And when he introduced me to his friend, what I didn't know is that he went on to tell them that I had brought back heroin from Thailand. It wasn't true. The little bit I brought back was from Kathmandu, Nepal, and he went on to tell them also that I had brought back like some 100 grams or something like that, which was totally false.
Yeah.
Uh,
So he just needed a target.
yeah, but also he was a master fisherman. He just tended the bait to the RCMP. They were looking for a big fish.
Yeah.
Yeah, I ended up being their big fish. With I was targeted as a 1A target, which is the highest level you can get in all criminals in Canada, and it's at the level of Pablo Escobar and all the big drug dealers.
And
And
and you didn't even have the money to go back there on the plane, right?
but look what happened.
Yeah.
After I met them, they asked me if I could introduce them to a source of heroin in Thailand. And all I told them was that they could get skag from any tuk-tuk driver over there without any problem. And
Yeah.
I told them that I had a job and I wasn't interested to go anywhere. And the week after, one of those two guys, Barry Bennett, who was played by Stephen McHattie in the movie,
Now,
uh,
is one of those guys the guy? One of those guys that you're talking about, is that one of the guys that got killed?
yeah, but you'll see where it goes with
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Because a week after I met these guys, Bennett came on a boat and took the boat for a couple of days. And when he came back, there were splatters of blood on the boat and empty casing of 9 millimeters. And that was all to make me believe that they had killed someone on the boat. And when I presented the bullets, the empty casing to Glenn Barry, I showed it to him and I asked him, "What the fuck is going on here, man? We're doing business. We had a charter business taking people out
Yeah.
fishing." He says, "You already know too much. You better shut up and not say a word about this because the same thing will happen to you." And he says that you want it or not, you're part of it now. And he says, "For now on, you will do what we're going to tell you to do, or you're going to suffer the same fate as the other guy who was on the boat with Bennett."
How
And
old were you at this point?
27 years old, something like that, 28, yeah. And I was only a junkie back then. And when I got back, I went through my cold turkey and I decided that I would stop doing drugs. But after the murder scenario, it kind of freaked me out. And I ended up going to see the Candyman in Chinatown in Vancouver and just started using as in every opportunity that I had. And after that, they went on chasing me for 18 months across Canada.
Trying to find you to get you to go, right? Yeah.
They even found my family, and they called me over there during Christmas at one point, and they said that if I wasn't going to do what they were telling me, that they would go after my family as well. So after 18 months of chasing across the country, during which many threats were made to me, there
Yeah.
was the murder scenario, and even another guy had been killed, according to Glenn Barry, who told me at some point that one of their colleagues that was introduced to me had been shot by Bennett again because the guy didn't follow the orders. So the accumulation of all this made it that I decided to follow them to Thailand. They paid for my plane ticket. They paid for my expenses. They paid for my dope over there because that was all their money. So every time I was doing drugs over there, that was these are CMP officers who were paying
Wow.
for it with taxpayers' dollars.
Yeah.
And at the time of the deal, they were supposed to do a deal with the sister of a tuk-tuk driver that I was sent to meet over there in Chiang Mai, and they were living in a slum. They were not big drug dealers or anything. They were not
Yeah. They were
gang
like
riots.
small guy.
They were small guys. They were poor people. They were peasant.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all they were, and they were only trying to put some food on the table for their kids by selling a gram here and there to tourists. And at some point, the RCMP told me that they wanted to get 5 to 10 kilos, and they knew that I was a junkie, and they decided that they would give me a half kilo to 1 kilo of heroin as a reward to help them out connecting with that source of
Oh,
heroin.
so they said they would give you
Yeah,
a
yeah, that
half
was part of
kilo
the
and a half
yeah,
part
yeah,
of the
that was
deal.
part
Yeah.
of the deal, yeah. And they're not. I'm not the one who did ask them that. They're the one who offered me,
Yeah.
knowing full well that I was already hooked on heroin. It's not counting
Yeah.
all the coke that I was doing at the same time. I mean,
Yeah.
and the jets. This is what we call entrapment.
Yeah.
This is inciting someone to do something in exchange for something else. And when, just like an alcoholic, you're gonna give him a fucking bottle. He'll do whatever you want if he needs to have this bottle.
Yeah.
It's what happened to me in my case. And meanwhile, through all the documentation during those 18 months, each document point me out as someone who has a criminal record with an ID number from the prison,
Hmm.
and also as a major heroin importer and trafficker into Canada with connection also in Colombia for cocaine. And they even said when I got arrested that it slowed down the market of heroin in Australia, for heaven's sakes. I haven't been in Australia. So it was all a make up belief. It was like a theoretical reality that these so-called Monties, RCMP officers, so-called outstanding officers, they only made believe that they were onto something big to their supervisors and bosses, right up to the headquarters. Because when we we ended up interviewing one of the superintendent in Ottawa, the headquarters, to know if he knew about the murder scenario, about the 10% reward of all the drugs bought over there, the fact that they had paid for my plane ticket, the fact that I was not a trafficker in heroin. Even the RCMP had to admit that they never bought anything from me. If I
How
had,
come they didn't? How come they didn't go after the real guy that they were had your name mixed up with?
I
How come
was,
they didn't just figure out who he was and go after him?
but I was an easy prey. I was naive, and these guys were perhaps looking to make a name of themselves, and they went to Thailand, and they went over there to play cowboys. That's
Yeah.
what the and when they were to do the deal with that guy who's called Porn with his sister, she refused to do the deal with them because some
Yeah.
kid walked in her house. She was living in a slum. I was over there with two of those RCMP officers who I thought were cold blood killers.
Yeah.
One of the kids chat something to her in Thai saying that he had spotted some cops around. So she decided canceled the deal with them. And she came up to me and she says, "These guys are cops." I said, "They cannot be cops, for heaven's sakes. They kill people for a living." I I was even involved without
Yeah.
wanting it or knowing it into a murder. I had manipulated evidence of a murder on the boat by
Yeah.
taking
So
shells.
you don't believe any of this stuff that she's
So that
saying.
was
You don't.
that was
Yeah.
impossible for me to believe that these guys were RCMP officers.
Yeah.
No police would go on to make people believe they had killed someone. I mean, in
No.
order to entice them to do something. It's not how it works. In Canada, we have a charter of right protecting us from such behaviors, but like we will talk later, the court just ignored everything. So after that lady refused to do the deal with them, Port found another girl who was willing to do the deal in a parking lot because Bennett and Dob the fat man, because one of them was, they call him the fat man. He was enormous.
Was the older guy was the young guy that got killed? Was that his son?
No, that was only for the story, but that was his colleague. It was his
Yeah.
colleague. And this Duff wanted to do the deal in the public place, and Bennett as well. And that little girl Nipa came up with a compromise to say we're going to do the deal in the parking lot here, a couple blocks away. There was a big theater over there with that. I even remember that was a Rambo movie playing,
Yeah.
and she says we're going to do the deal in the parking lot there, and the big boss, the fat man, agreed to that, and I left with Flanagan and came back a couple minutes later after he saw the place. He agreed with it, and he stayed over there close to the drug with Nipa's brother, and we went back to the hotel to get Bennett and to get the money. And at that point, another guy showed up. That was supposed to be their pilot, and they were all wearing some kind of hood, and it felt strange because it was like 30 degrees out there and it was pretty warm. And nevertheless, my only job was to introduce them to that source, and my job was done. And I told them, now you can go with that girl. She's going to take you to the drug and you'll do the deal.
Yeah. I'm gone.
They said, no, you're coming with us. You are our insurance policy, that everything will go fine. So they took me with them to the transaction. And at the time of doing the deal, Flanagan got shot in the head.
How were you like present when all that happened?
Yeah, sure. I was
Like,
I was
yeah.
stepping backward when when I saw Bennett dragging for time and asking Flanagan, "Have you seen the dope?" He was answering no, and I was telling Bennett, "Come on, show her the money. Let's get it over with." And when he opened up a small duffel bag, we realized that the old stack of money had been rolled up in duct tape. We couldn't even see the money. So I told Nipa to cancel all this, and I told Bennett to fuck off. And at that point, Flanagan shouted, "He's got it! He's got it!" And he made a couple steps and jumped at the back of a little pickup truck where the
Yeah.
Thai guy was standing, and tackled him at the bottom of the box. And meanwhile, Nipa walked out and jumped on Flanagan's back while he was fighting her brother. And when Bennett saw that, he jumped at the back also. And Nipa had a little sister with her, and she went behind the wheel and took off. And about 200 feet away from
They're
the car,
driving. They're driving all on top of the truck, right?
they're at the back in the cargo
Yeah.
area. A
Yeah.
small Toyota pickup truck. They
Yeah.
were fighting at the back of the pickup truck, the four of them. Bennett, and again, Nipa and her brother, while the little sister was driving. And couple hundred feet, they only had time to make the corner. Myself, I started to run. At that point, I had run maybe a block, and I saw that so-called pilot coming running after me like a fucking bloodhound, and he tackled me down in the ditch. And as he did so, when we looked up, we heard a big bang in the back alley, and we saw the tail light of the truck lighting up and shutting down. And after that, the truck left again, and Girdlestone asked me, that pilot, that so-called pilot, his name was Girdlestone, he says, "Where the fuck is your gun? Who's got a gun?" And None of us had a gun. None of us. And finally, it took a few minutes, and the Thai police arrived. And as he was trying to hand me to the Thai police, I didn't feel like being shot in the back alley with her, and I started running. And then Girdlestone started shouting to the Thai police to shoot me down. And when I turned around, I could see the Thai cop with his Browning 357 Magnum in his hand, aiming at me. Silver Magnum. I could see it glowing in the dark.
Yeah.
I dove to the ground, and after that, they took me back to where the truck was at the corner of the other street. And meanwhile, Bennett walked out from the darkness in the back alley, holding on to Nipa. And the first thing that I knew something went bad. I didn't know what yet. And I was handcuffed, my hand at the back, laying face down in the dirt. And they put Nipa there, and Girdlestone and Bennett started running down the dark back alley. And some cops started dragging me away to a police car. And while I was at the back of the police car, the yellow officer, the liaison officer for the Canadian, the RCMP at the Canadian Embassy was there, and he came up running to the car talking. He started talking to a cop who was standing next to the door where I was laying at the back, and he says, he started screaming, "One of us got shot, one of us went down." And then he realized that I was at the back. And from then on, I was expendable. I was expendable totally. And when they took me to the police station, they had the reenactment of the event for 2 days. They took videos and pictures of everything. And they reset the whole scenario in a way that there was no gunshot, that he only fell down overboard and
broke his neck.
Yeah. And there was, I mean, I know he got shot. Even the Thais told me that it could have, according to the Thais who were with me, my co-accused, they said that Bennett was trying to break the back window. Of the truck, the butt of his gun, and apparently a shot went off and shot Flanagan right in the back of the head. Because Porn got arrested after that at the hospital when they were taking Flanagan in, and he said that all the gray matters was popping out from the back of his head, and he had blood coming out of his nose, his eyes, his ears, and his mouth. And I mean, because the bullet stayed in there, because it never had chance to take any speed, because it was such short distance, so it went just like a pinball in his head probably, and the swelling made that all the gray matter started gushing out. And apparently they changed everything, because all the newspaper the following day, the next 2 days, television and radio said that he had been shot during a drug deal in Chiang Mai. And on the third day that we were transferred to Bangkok, General Bamru from the BMNU, which is the like of the DEA in the United States, went on public and said that the reporters had it wrong, that there was no shot fired. You go on my website, you will see the article from Thailand where it says that he got shot. So I'm not making that up. So they made a little bit of a big denial about it. I mean, like it never happened. And that was my word against their words.
And it was like you against them.
Yeah, basically. A junkie against the force, police force.
Yeah.
What the fuck am I going to do against them? And all their power and money, and what they tried to do was to have me sentenced to death and ensure that I wouldn't come back here to tell anyone about what occurred over there. Because if I'm not here in Canada to talk about it, no one will. And surely not the Thais, because the Thais on April 7, 1989, about a month or a little more than a month after our arrest, the Thai police from the Royal Inquiry they had over there came to question us at the prison to close their inquiry. And the Thai police told each of the Thais that if they were not signing, they had a deposition before them already written. You're going to sign your name there, or we're going to kill you. And the Thais, they decided to listen to wisdom and they signed it at the bottom just to put everything into perspective and in accord with the scenario put in place during the reenactment to show that there was no gunshot and so on. So that was a whole cover up of these events, and there's nothing I could do about it. And when they took Flanagan back to Vancouver, this occurred on the 19th of February, and on Friday 24th, his body was taken taken back to Vancouver, and right from the airport, they went to the funeral home, and his body was cremated without any autopsy here in Canada.
That's
And
crazy.
with it out went all the evidence that could have shown that he had been shot, but without a body, there's nothing I could do about it. So I had to wait to take these guys to court and to have all their testimonies and all the records that police notes and so on to make a case about the fact that they lied in relation to their colleague's death over there. And the court over here, when I said that the RCMP lied in their decision, they said that I was a liar. There was no reason to believe the RCMP had lied because they had found no evidence of it in the old file. As you saw on my website, there is 175 pages of perjuries from the RCMP exclusively related to Flanagan's death. And the judges said that there was no evidence the RCMP were lying, and that each of these judges, after their decision, were promoted to higher function. So how do you think I feel? That's why I told you yesterday I'm starting to shoot the pilot for a documentary that will play exclusively on Flanagan's death and all the lies about it, and the refusal of the court to acknowledge that they lied, and the refusal of my government to acknowledge that the court closed their eyes to all these evidence. I wrote to the ministers. My letters are all on my website. They know.
Yeah.
They didn't even acknowledge my letters. Why? Because they cannot. If they agree that the evidence and the analysis of Flanagan's death is true, that means that they have to agree that the judges closed their eyes to this as well.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. That's why they refuse to even acknowledge receipt of my letter. But I don't care because I have all the letters on record, and I know
So
they were sent. They
Do
were
you do people still harass you? Does the CRMP or do they still like want you in prison?
They cannot do anything anymore. I'm a free man. I did my time. 23 and a half years together. I had to wait before the end of my parole a few years ago. And
Wow.
although that they haven't forgotten about me at all, because my website was hacked twice,
Yeah.
and all the documents related to Flanagan alone, nothing else. Only these things were erased from my website, not once but twice. How how much more? How can you be stupid to a point to delete only these things? If you have to delete something, delete everything. Because if you delete only this, it looks pretty suspicious first.
Yeah.
And beside the RCMP, who had interest to erase these documents? No one. And when I saw that,
No.
I did a series of podcasts in Toronto with Dr. Lee Miller, who's a well-known criminologist, and I did 12 episodes with him. You have access to it on my website as well.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
That guy did a complete analysis of all the evidence about Flanagan's death, and he said it. Even Malarek, who's been also on the same podcast, did the same. He says the evidences are clear. The RCMP did lie about this as well. But it's not only this. While I was in prison, there was a big inquiry here by the RCMP Public Complaint Commission. And the guy who conducted the inquiry came up with a report on March 6, 1991, 176 pages thick, and it was a total condemnation of the RCMP and what they had done to me in violation of my right and being entrapped and the whole thing. But it was too critical. So his boss as it was discovered afterward, used to be an ex-RCMP deputy commissioner, who, by the way, was one of the best friend of the guy who conducted Operation Deception, which led to my sentencing to death in Thailand. So they took his report and put it in a drawer and rewrote another one that was only 136 pages, and with it, they took basically 40 pages out of it, and
Yeah.
out went again all the evidence of wrongdoing from the RCMP, and all this was exposed.
Yeah.
Through, it even made up. It even went up to the parliamentary session in Ottawa before the Chamber of Commons years ago, and the government, they don't want the truth to come out because you can imagine the scandal that will emanate from this if the truth is known that the RCMP lied about the
I
recovery.
can see it. It's like
And
right
what
in your
about
face. You
and
know?
his family, his wife, his kids, his whole family will sue the Canadian government for $100 million because they were lied to. There's a whole series of consequences to this. And up to this day, after 30 something years, Flanagan's family is still thinking I'm a fucking bastard, nothing else.
So
I'm the lowest of the low, according to them. They
So-
don't even want to look at the evidence that the RCMP lied. So sure they are and convinced that the RCMP told them the truth about the death of their dad and husband, whatever.
so they think you did it.
No, but in some ways I contributed to his death.
Yeah.
But in the scenario they put in place, you see Flanagan pulling on a brick of heroin, and you got the Thai guy and his hand, Flanagan's hand slipped from the brick and he goes overboard from the cargo area. So that I had nothing to do with it, and I was charged, I was accused of his death.
Mhm.
There was a murder charge against me, but they had to drop the charge because I wasn't even near the truck or in the truck when he went overboard, as they say. And they asked me to sign a deposition as well, and I refuse because I say no, I will not participate to the cover up of this guy's death and all you. And I was heading to court, and I say you're only here to close your inquiry on Flanagan's death, and all you need now it's me to just agree with you that this is what happened when it's not. And I say I'm not taking part to any of this. And they threatened me that the court will see it in a bad way, that they will sentence me to death. So fuck, they're gonna sentence me to death neither way. So
How
And-
come they didn't when they sentenced you to death? Like
Yeah.
you find out that these guys are cops, right? Like what's going through your head? Are you like, when you find out they sentenced you to death, how
just-
come they didn't try to put you to death right away?
maybe because the Thai police arrived.
Probably.
Maybe it's because the Thai police arrived. And more than that, the RCMP said that only Flanagan wore a gun when he got killed, and that Bennett and Yellowstone didn't have a gun. Can you just imagine foreign police going on a 5 or 10 kilo deal of heroin and not having a gun on him? Does that make sense to you?
No.
It doesn't. But this is what they said, and people believe it.